The sheet metal tools inside of SolidWorks start off in exactly the same way as any other part. We can just start off by creating some sketch geometry, and I'm just going to do half of the component in this case because we're going to maintain symmetry throughout the whole component. So I'm just going to add some dimensions onto this sketch. Now we're done with the dimensions, we can just go to our sheet metal tools. I'm just going to start off with the base flange. It's pretty much exactly the same as an extrude, but we've got some options for the thickness of the sheet metal, which direction that thickness is going to go into as well, and also our sort of default bend rad underneath. We can also specify bend allowance in a number of different ways. This time I'm using K-Vector, and we can specify some automatic relief as well. We get a nice preview, and then we can just accept it, and we get exactly what was shown in the preview. It's a really nice way to learn the software. Next, I'm just going to do a miter flange. Miter flange, we just literally sketch out the shape of the material that we want to add to the sheet metal component, which you can do there. We could add some dimensions on, but straight away, as soon as we exit the sketch, we get a nice preview, and you can see it's automatically mitering the corners where the two pieces of sheet metal, or the single piece of sheet metal, comes together. We've got full control over the gap distance. We can also change the position of the material, so we can put the material sort of back or forwards or to the virtual sharp. If we don't want to go right from the bottom, we can also introduce an offset. So in this case, if I just put an offset of 4mm, there you go, you can see the preview updates, and again it's exactly the same as the preview. So we've got some quite complex sheet metal geometry produced pretty easily there. If we come around to the other side, I'm just going to use the edge flange command this time. And you can see just by picking on an edge and then a second edge, it again automatically miters the corners, so we can actually manufacture that. Does a really nice job of that. A very powerful command, the edge flange tool. So again, we've got the preview there, and we can just accept that when we're happy with how it's looking. So now we can just choose to mirror the whole lot across to the other side. So I'm just going to use the central face there to mirror it across, and just choose to mirror everything across the other side. So it's starting to look pretty good. What we want from a sheet metal component like this, though, is the flat pattern. But before we get on to that, we're just going to add some forming tools, some sort of pressed features. First I'm going to add some louvres. Just in the standard SolidWorks design library, you can see the face orients based on which face we're hovering over. And to change the direction it pushes through, you just hit the tab key. Just going to create a pattern of these really quickly. Just choose an edge to dictate the direction of the pattern. Then I can just choose exactly how many I want, and the preview is really useful there for getting it right first time. So I'll just have 5. Another one in the standard SolidWorks design library is just a little recess, just an emboss. And again, just drag and drop. And it's just a sketch, so we can add dimensions to place that if we choose to. Just want to mirror those across to the other side. It doesn't matter that we've got features on either side of the component. SolidWorks just mirrors them regardless. So if we just choose the central right plane there, we can just choose the features that we want to mirror, and it just mirrors both across onto opposite sides, again giving us the preview. Just before we get to the flat pattern, I'm just going to add a safety edge or a hem. We've got a few different options in here. If we have a look at the preview, just add one onto the second side as well. If we just have a look at the preview, you can see we've got full control over which direction it goes in, and we've got 4 different types of hem that we can add with different dimension values popping up for each option. So we've got like a teardrop hem, a rolled hem for a sheet metal hinge, and we can change the the amount that rolls around. In this case I'm just going to do like a safety edge just by squashing the material down onto itself, just a closed hem. So to flatten it, it's just one button. That gives us our flat pattern with all of our bend lines. If we were to produce a drawing of that, we get all the bend notes as well with the directions on there. But maybe we just want to get this part laser cut out. Just by right clicking on the flat pattern, we can export that to DXF or DWG. Just gives me a warning to say I haven't saved it. So I'll just save that part, and then we get the option to save our DXF. And now we get the choice here to say what do we want to include in our DXF or our DWG. I'm just going to choose everything because we actually get a little preview that pops up, so we can actually choose exactly what we want in that DXF or DWG without having to open up that file in a separate program. We can just choose what we want and what we don't want. Just by box selecting some entities, we can remove them, and once we're happy, we can just choose to save that out. So we just get a DXF or a DWG 1:1 size, and we can just save that away, and we know it's got everything we need in there. So there's a quick look at some standard sort of sheet metal features. We can do more complex ones as well, like this sort of cone shape. We get all the bend lines on there. To do that, it's just a case of creating two SolidWorks sketches on two separate planes and just leaving a gap. You can just see the gap in there. Choose how many bend lines you want, and using lofted bends, we just pick on the two sketches, choose which side we want the thickness, and that gives us our lofted bend shape. You can see all the bend lines on there. Another example there is where we've got a much more complex sheet metal part, and we've just modelled up the volume effectively here. So sometimes it's much easier just to sketch out the inside shape just using solids, and then we can effectively wrap sheet metal around that volume. So it gives us the exact shape, but in a really quick and easy to use fashion. Very powerful command there. And then just one button again just flattens that out. But at any stage we can go back. We could change the original solid, or we could just change the converting and just add extra faces in there. So if we just choose an extra edge to bend some sheet metal around, just adds a base in there, and we're ready to go. If we produce a drawing of this, you can see in the view palette over on the right hand side we've got our flat pattern that we can just choose to drag in. And you can see there the automatic bend notes appearing. If we wanted to export this as a DXF, we can actually control the bend lines, so each direction has got a different colour. So we can have bend lines going down in blue and bend lines up in red. So they're all down in this case, but they've all gone to blue. Oh, there's a couple that are up, do apologise. And that's a quick look at the sheet metal tools inside of SolidWorks.